Hey, what's going on, y'all? So look, check this out. Nothing makes me more upset than seeing tweets like this from New York City Transit. And I'm going to give y'all the truth as to why there's crew shortages because New York City Transit is not explaining it, but I'm going to explain it. Now, there obviously was a problem on a train somewhere, and New York City Transit tweeted 2 trains did not make their trip due to crew shortage. This is a bad statement, right? Because we are out there. And if the public think it's because of us why trains are running late or why they not getting to work on time, guess who's going to get assaulted? Guess who's going to get verbally abused? Guess who's going to get called names and things thrown at them? The crew. So it boggles my mind as to why New York City Transit will actually tweet this. And if you look at the person response, and this was the other day, this was in 2 weeks ago. The person said, "What a disaster. So you're cramming thousands of people into local 4 trains as an alternative. Not only that, now that I missed my off-peak train, I have to pay an increased fare because of your failures. How is this sensible?" Right? Now I understand that person pain, but the company is not thinking about what we deal with on the back end of that. And I want to enlighten the people on the crew shortages and what's really happening with the bureaucracy in New York City Transit and how they do business. So the first person I'm going to bring up, and I'm going to bring them down the aisle, come to the pulpit, Reverend Monica DaCosta. Now, Monica DaCosta, she is the executive manager for operations training. She's in charge of the whole probationary thing. She oversees all of that. And it's an issue with her, and she creates crew shortages. And I'm going to explain to you guys how this works. So sometime, as a new employee, you get into some trouble. You may have a station overrun. You may have some type of operational problem, minor stuff, and you got to go sit down at 130 Livingston. For those who don't know, 130 Livingston for probationaries is like their discipline office or area, whatever the case is. So when they get in trouble, they sit down for weeks at a time, right? And sometimes it don't even make sense why they sit down for weeks at a time when they're going to get an extension anyway, when they could be on the train, not creating these crew shortages that New York City Transit keeps talking about. Now, the ironic thing is this. Ms. DaCosta only works 4 days a week. She don't work on Mondays for some strange reason. I mean, they are letting her work 4 days a week, 1 day from home. And it's ironic because New York City Transit, MTA, is trying to telling other employers, hey, stop telling, don't let your workers telework, bring them back to the offices, and they not even bringing their own workers back to the offices. It makes no sense. But how can Ms. DaCosta be effective in her title 1 day a week from home? She's operations training. In order for some employees to get back to work, or all the employees to get back to work once they are in a little jam, they need her signature. Can't get her signature at home, right? So that creates a bottleneck. That creates a backlog of employees who could actually be out there on the road serving New York City. Now, this unavailability issue for Ms. DaCosta, like I said, it is an issue. It creates a backlog of employees who can be out there on the road. And this type of mismanagement, because I don't know who her boss is. I don't know if it's Critchlow. I don't know if it's Lambert. I don't know if it's Kim Gibbs. I don't know if it's Dave. I don't know who her direct supervisor is, but there is an issue there that has been going on unaddressed for a long time. And this is one reason why there's crew shortages in New York City Transit, right? And I'm going to get more into Ms. DaCosta possibly on another show, because I've been hearing some things, but I'll get into that later. The MAC. To tell you the truth, I don't even know who's in control of the MAC. Right? For those who don't know, the MAC is the Medical Assessment Center. It is not a doctor's office. The people who is in the MAC are not doctors, but they make doctor decisions. It makes absolutely no sense. I'm going to give you guys an example. I was when I came back to work recently, I seen one of my coworkers by the Mac looking very upset. I'm like, bro, what's wrong? The Mac just put me out, no work available. Now, this is a train operator who is able to work the road safely, and the Mac put them out. And I said, why did the Mac put you out? Oh, they said my vision was bad, and they put me out. I said, wait, you wear glasses though? I said, did they test you with your glasses on also? No, they ain't test me with my glasses on. I said, what? I said, yo, look, go back down there. You tell them, you ask them, well, what is my vision with my glasses on? And they didn't do that. So when he went back down there, the next day he hit me, he said, yo, Tramel, I thank you a lot. They put me back in service. They made a mistake. So the MAC actually got people out of work, no work available, not able to move trains because of misclassification. And I've been hearing about this, and this happens more times than not. The MAC got people out on platforms for conditions that is managed, right? They got people out on platforms for sleep apnea. Come on now. This whole sleep apnea thing was a farce anyway, right? It was a farce anyway. We have something called positive train control, right? We have a signal system. This sleep apnea thing was put in place because of Long Island Railroad. They don't have that, right? If a train operator or conductor becomes incapacitated, let's say a train operator becomes incapacitated, we have something called a dead man feature, a dead arm feature, whatever it is, where the train will go into emergency. That means that it will stop. It will not collide with another train or whatever the case is. And if the person does happen to lean on the dead arm or the dead man, and the train continues to move forward, and there's another train ahead of it, it's a signal block system where that train will go into emergency and nothing will happen, right? So that in itself, the system is safe. The system is pretty much safe. But the MAC got people out on the platforms for a long amount of time where they could actually be moving trains and keeping the system and city moving, right? Now we have discipline. I'm gonna bring my friend up. What's his name? BK Basuma Kamara. BK, they call him BK. Now there are so many employees on platform for discipline, right? And they remain on discipline for months, well over after the investigation is done. For an example, I have a friend out right now. Bypass of a station. Nothing too major. All right, he committed an infraction, but nothing crazy or whatever the case is. Well, he allegedly committed an infraction that the MTA is trying to say he did. And he's been out of work, not out of work, but he's been restricted for over a month now. The investigation is done already. Why is he restricted for a month when he's able to go out there and move his train? There are so many employees that's restricted for discipline when they could be out there moving their trains. And I'm talking about minor infractions. Minor infractions. You got people sitting at 2 Broadway. Minor infractions, right? Sometimes not even operational, right? For months at a time. Sometimes people, train crews have 12 nines. 12 nines is when somebody gets struck by the train, right? And the MTA knows it's not, especially the conductor fault, right? If something happens in front of the train, sometimes the conductor get taken out and left sitting down for weeks at a time, or on the platform for weeks at a time, not able to serve New York City. I'm telling you guys, the bureaucracy of New York City Transit is one of one, right? I mean, one department don't know what the other department is doing. There's no cohesion. These managers make up rules as they go along when we could actually make better decisions that would serve the rider and public better. What else I got before I forget? Oh, I'm gonna put Paul McPhee up for this one. Booking off sick. It is very hard to get an improved day off in New York City Transit, right? You will hear stories of workers missing family functions, and I'm not talking about parties and all that. I'm talking about funerals. I'm talking about graduations because we can't get a day off. And what happens when we can't get a day off? We are forced to take sick, and then we don't take one sick day. Because if you take one sick day in New York City Transit and you do it a few times a year, they classify that as a pattern, and then they put you on something more restrictive called sick control. So in order to break that pattern, because New York City Transit want to make it so hard for us to get a day off, we have to take off 3 days to break that pattern, right? So instead of them granting you 1 day and finding a replacement for you for 1 day, most people take off 3 days. Now they have to find a replacement for you for 3 days, all because you want to protect yourself from the chain and ball, big stick management punishment that New York City Transit hits you with just because you want 1 day off of work, right? So once again, when I see tweets like this, it bothered me. It put workers in the line of fire. I don't understand why nobody is up there helping them curve that type of language. It's been going on for a long time. I think since COVID, it's been going on for a long time, and nobody been putting them in a place to curb their language. I have seen nothing from Davies. I have seen nothing from anyone. I have seen nothing from anyone. And a lot of people don't know, yes, this is a good job. I'm not saying it's a bad job. It's a good job. But there's a lot of things that can be done mutually better that would, for one, serve the workers right, and for two, serve the ride and public right. But we have these managers, and let me bring their faces up again. Monica DaCosta, just to remind you guys, never was a transit worker. She never worked transit. We have BK. BK never was a transit worker. We have Paul McPhee. Paul McPhee never was a transit worker, right? And I always say, New York City Transit, the MTA, will hire a coach just because they were a coach before. For an example, they will hire a hockey coach to coach a basketball team just because they was a coach before. This is a problem through New York City Transit. The people who makes the decisions never grinded with us, don't understand what we go through, do not understand the culture. There's a different culture between school car and what actually happens when you out there on the road. They are oblivious of it because they only see what's on paper, and they make up a lot of these rules that do not work. That's why you will hear that if transit workers actually follow the rules, this system will come to a stop. And it's right, because the people who make up the rules don't understand how things work once you out there. Can you imagine the police department, their sergeants, their lieutenants, their captains never were being police officers, but telling police officers how to police? This is exactly what's happening in New York City Transit. But this is the reason for the crew shortages, because they not going to tell you that. So when your train is not on time, do not be mad at that train operator or conductor. You could start with those 3 people that I just put on the screen: Monica DaCosta, Paul McPhee, and Basuma Kamara. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.